Today's sponsor is Advancement Courses. Stay tuned at the end of the show for a special coupon for 20% off any of their grad level professional development courses.
Episode 380, 5 ways for teachers to take back time and make the most of it.
The 10-Minute Teacher Podcast with Vicki Davis. Every weekday, you'll learn powerful, practical ways to be a more remarkable teacher today.
Today we're talking with Sarah Johnson, one of the co-authors of Balance Like a Pirate, Going Beyond Work-Life Balance to Ignite Passion and Thrive as an Educator. So that is a lot. Sarah, what is the idea behind the book?
It's a mouthful. So I think it's really important that Jessica Johnson Cabine and I had been engaged in conversations for several years, and we kind of came to a self-awareness that balance really isn't possible. That idea of 50-50 work-life balance is something that we just kept striving for and failing. So we basically decided that we thought it'd be important to document our conversations and the tips and tricks that we had shared with one another. And that's why that beefy subtitle is Going Beyond Work-Life Balance. Basically, in this idea, we have a framework that we seek balance in quadrants of our lives. So instead of trying to put work and life as a 50-50, we look at life as pretty robust. And we say that there's the positional, which is our paid position. And of course, then we have the professional, because as educators and teachers, we need to grow, become better. We don't want to stay stagnant. And then we have our personal lives, which includes our families and our spiritual, physical, mental well-being, and then our passions, the thing that lights us up as people. So we don't want people thinking that we tried to create that 50-50 formula that we know isn't quite possible, but we do believe you can strive for it.
And life is so much about seasons.
Isn't it?
As I get older, it's like, there truly are different seasons of life. So you have, there's so many things in the book, but today we're going to kind of drill down on 5 ways that we can maximize our time as educators. So where do we start with getting the most out of time?
Well, I went ahead and selected 5 tips that I think would be helpful to kind of get to that piece about all of those areas. So the first thing that I really wanted the listeners to consider is calendaring. If you're not a person who is taking hold of your calendar and prioritizing it, it will prioritize you. That's something that we find maybe not so much during the workday for teachers, because I think we're so used to planning minute by minute in that classroom. But how are you using your prep time? How are you using the margin contracted day before the students are in the seats and after? And then more specifically, how are you handling that time, that second shift in your life that comes after the workday? And just being really intentional about how you prioritize your time is something that we really advocate for, is taking your calendar and taking hold of it. So that's one thing.
How do you take hold of your calendar? I mean, is it a specific way you do it or what?
Yeah, for me, big way that I took hold of mine was taking hold of my mornings. And I really would recommend for anybody listening to look into Hal Elrod's Miracle Morning.
Oh, yeah. I listen to him, and it's a great book, too.
Well, it's life-changing. And the funny part is we do mention him in our book. And yep, it's a real quick read. It's an audiobook that would be really easy to get to. But truly, it just really kind of changes your life in the sense that it gives you some time to set your tone for the day, and then get in some physical, get in some reading, get in some meditating if you can. It's so good. So that's how I took, charge of mine. And then what I did is kind of blocked my calendar. As a building principal, I always knew that if I didn't have my calendar set, then boy, the fires of the day would just take right over. But if I can take hold and put on my calendar my priorities for the day, it goes to, Stephen Covey's The Big Rocks as well. What are you going to take that's your priority, and how can you make sure that gets on your calendar? And then the rest will fall to the sediment. It truly does, for most days.
Okay, what's our second?
Okay, the second is, and we really firmly believe this, break up with that phone. Breaking up with your phone. We live in such a world, technology is beautiful, right? It connects people, it transcends geographic boundaries, allows us to collaborate, allows you and I to have this great conversation. But, it can kind of take over our lives. And I'll give you a quick quote on that for your listeners. Manoush, who does the board in Brilliant, How Spacing Out Can Unlock Your Most Productive and Creative Self. She has a quote in her book from Golden Krishna, who's an expert in design strategy for Google, basically saying that, the only industries that refer to their customers as users are drug dealers and technologists.
Oh, no.
And I'll tell you what, once you start realizing how much control, and I would say specifically our mobile devices have over us, you start to realize realize that those are kind of taken over for us. It's so easy to sit and scroll, to take a breath when you've had a rough day. And teachers, man, educators, we work in intense environments sometimes, and that can really drain us emotionally. But one of the things that we advocate looking at is how you're using that mobile technology and how it might be taking over your life. So since you only have a few minutes with me, I would say for your listeners to check out that Bored and Brilliant challenge. You could Google it. It's 7-day challenge just to kind of take some time and reflect where are you at with that. And then she has some really great strategies, just kind of step away a little bit.
And, it takes 20 minutes to get into a flow state. And when I realized that, I just went and turned off all my notifications and even the badges. They say that just seeing a badge makes you wonder what's there. So I am so strategic about my badges, my notifications, and it does make your life better. But sometimes I even feel like I want to get rid of even those notifications, because if all it takes is one distraction and then you just kind of lose it. Okay, what's our third?
Okay, so scheduling, dating your family. If you are a person who has children, schedule some date time with them once a week, 15 minutes a day, depending upon your lifestyle, whatever you've got going on. If it's not your spouse, if your parents, if they're still alive, friends, but make an intentional effort to schedule those dates so that it doesn't be like, oh, we should do something sometime. Make it happen. What you schedule will happen. We firmly believe that will be a really good thing to maximize your time too.
I'm going to tell you, I have a story to tell you with that. It's been about 10 years ago, I realized I was never seeing my own parents, and we live in the same town.
Oh, yeah.
So I decided, I looked at my schedule and got very serious about it and decided they were still young, in their early 60s. And I'm like, you know what? Every Saturday morning, I'm going to go spend with my parents. Well, I still am, but mom is 72 and now she has dementia. And, you think you have forever and you don't. And I am so grateful that I really looked at that. And I've got to do it with more family members. That is just so great, Sarah.
Well, Vicki, I'm so proud of you for doing that, because it's way too easy to let the days just pass you by. And if we're fortunate enough to have all those relationships and tethers in our lives, we've really got to foster them. We can't just assume that they'll be there, like you said. So thanks for sharing that. It's beautiful.
Okay, what's next? What's our fourth?
So create time on your calendar for your passions. And we do not advocate for a new hobby. Taking time to inventory, I know this is really big too. Some people don't actually know what their passions are, and that's okay. I think we get into education because we're passionate about kids. But depending upon how you're burning that candle from both ends, you're either burning yourself out or you're igniting a big flame. And if your passion is consuming you in your position and your professional, then what do you have left? So, I do say that my passions were singing and performing, and I was very fortunate because I would just take the time toward the last couple of years and make sure that I was stoking that passion. So I'd do skits for the student body. I'd go in and sing with the choir, even if it was just some scales. I'd sing the national anthem. Finding a way to get back to that instead of letting it just lie dormant and missing it really helped me thrive recently. So I just recommend that.
Great. Okay, what's our fifth?
And the fifth one is just really empowering yourself to not only create that white space in your calendar, you've calendared it, but actually calendar some white space where nobody else gets a hold of that time and you decide how you're going to use it. And I hear a lot of people say, I need to find some margin. That's great. Find it, but then use it. And sometimes that means that you're going to say no to other things because you're going to say yes to new things. And that's really hard for us, but it's something that if you can harness that ability, you can really thrive. If you've been wanting to get more involved in community leadership or, church leadership, if you just want to read for pleasure because you don't remember the last time you did that, I mentioned already morning, self-care. If you haven't been doing that, just find that space and give it to yourself, even if it's 15 minutes. Really important.
White space on your calendar. Sometimes I'll set an appointment with myself so that I don't give it to something else because, people will say, oh, are you free at 8:00 on Thursday? Well, actually, usually I spend that time with my family. So it's not really that I'm free, but we just so eagerly put things on our calendars that aren't as important as what we would be doing. Sarah, as we finish up, give us a 30-second pep talk motivating us to get better at balance.
I would just say that we as educators really believe that we're servant leaders, and we're so good at serving other people. We are, as a group, terrible at making sure that our cup is full. The best analogy I give is when you get on an airplane, they say, put on an oxygen mask first so that you can help others. Lifesavers, lifeguards, they've got to get that vest on too. Make sure you're taking care of yourself so that you can pour out heavier to others. Really important.
Love it. And this and so many other great ideas are in balance like a pirate. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Vicki.
Need some great professional development? Today's sponsor, Advancement Courses, has more than 200 graduate-level online professional development courses for K-12 teachers. You can take these courses for continuing education, salary advancement, or recertification. And these courses have us teachers developing tangible resources to use in our classrooms immediately. Go now to advancementcourses.com/coolcat and use the code COOL20 at checkout to get 20% off any course. With this coupon, a 3 grad credit course is only $359. So go to advancementcourses.com/coolcat to learn more and use the coupon code COOL20. Never stop learning.
Thank you for listening to the 10-Minute Teacher Podcast. You can download the show notes and see the archive at coolcatteacher.com/podcast. Never stop learning.